Well, I think our story starts probably Friday when we left work, and the word we had was that Katrina was going to head into Florida, and so we had sort of breathed a sigh of relief.
For our briefing on Saturday morning, I could definitely feel the shift in the room of the people. You know, it was much more serious, and
we decided we better leave. And we packed enough clothes for like 2 or 3 days and decided, you know, we'd be back.
About 2:30 in the morning, I got up and went to the computer and did the little weather thing, and I saw the magnitude of this thing.
About 24 hours before the storm hit, I walked in, and all the lines had converged. They said, we're in deep trouble. It's class 5, and it looks like we're going to take the hit.
Sunday, we started opening shelters. We were opening up like to the last minute because the outpouring, people realized that this was a bad storm.
And it was beginning to be felt, and they were getting some reports.
And I remember then telling you, this is like the real deal. This is real serious.
Things began deteriorating pretty quickly Sunday evening, and a very strange sensation of watching a storm coming toward our home, toward our school system.
The night that I was getting out of my car going into the EOC, I never will forget the last words I heard on the radio station was, "Good night, Southeast Louisiana. Have sweet dreams. Tomorrow when you wake up, Camille and Betsy will be just a sheer memory. Katrina will be the thing that you will always remember."
The eye of the storm passed over Slidell, which is my home.
12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, water still rising. Around 1 o'clock, water came right in the house, and we couldn't go out the front because it was rushing in too fast, so we had to go out the back.
And we climbed to the front of the attic, and we sat there on the studs in the roof. And then the water came up, and eventually we could feel like the water on our feet, and it came and stopped about to our waist.
I watched these huge pine trees just crash to the ground. Most of them just snapped in half.
So you could just tell by the atmosphere in the room and by the calls that were coming in that there was a lot of hurting people and a lot of things going on.
We kept moving to different places in the house. Depending on which part of the house we thought the next tree might fall. And at one point we didn't know where to go, so we just stood in the middle of the house in this hallway.
When we went out and saw the devastation, it's hard to describe to you. Homes with water, thousands of them, with water up to the eave height, to the roof height. Homes completely gone, just a slab there. Other homes, as we traveled in other areas of the parish, trees would actually cut homes in half. They would just break open like an egg.
Our parish government officials took a ride as soon as they could to the Slidell area. And when they came back, they did not have to say a word to me. The look on their face told the story.
And I remember walking over like power lines that had fallen down, and I'm like, is this safe? And my stepdad was just directing everybody, you know, cross this one, hop over this one, jump over this one. And I just remember seeing like, this can't be happening. Like, is this really real?
The city was broken. Selman High School had 7 or 8 feet of water and most probably half a foot or a foot of mud.
Surge of water actually blew open our NT lab. Brick walls was just knocked down completely. The east end of the parish, especially Salmon, Brock, Abney, St. Tammany Jr., had a huge amount of damage.
And it was just unbelievable what I saw. I mean, just water and mud. I mean, bookshelves, heavy bookshelves. They were just overturned, just everything upside down.
The entire school area was flooded, so every child's home was either completely destroyed or severely damaged.
We had no electricity, no power, no water, no sewer, no grocery stores, no gas stations. There was nothing.
We were getting no news from St. Tammany Parish. I mean, everything was New Orleans, everything was the Gulf Coast, and nothing about Slidell, you know, Mandeville, Covington.
It's no coincidence that in times of war, one of the first strategies is to do away with the communication system. That creates havoc. Now, we faced a situation not unlike that from Hurricane Katrina.
Our school system, that's why they play such a coordinated effort with us, is there are shelters.
People that even had stayed through the storm now were in houses that were damaged, you know, water and wind, had no electricity, had no gas and things like that. So our shelters grew after the storm.
It makes me just quiver to think about how many lives we may have lost if we wouldn't have had good schools like we did here in St. Tammany Parish to utilize.
These wonderful people in the shelter, through no fault of their own, were here, that they were not going to be forgotten in our community, that they were going to be remembered, that someone cared and they knew it.
Fontainebleau High School facility became a central staging area for all of those first responders. So it was more like a military base than a school. We were feeding breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It turned out to be about 250 people. So it was a tremendous cooperation between community resources and the school.
The devastation was such, and the magnitude of it was such, it was hard to put your arms around it. You know, where do you start?
Thursday morning, we had our first meeting, official meeting with Kevin Davis. Right. His first words were, what can we do to help the school system? And remember, while this was playing out, New Orleans was in the news with people on rooftops waiting to be rescued.
Everyone with a 504 or 985 area code, there was no contact. So that was a little frightening.
We had families and employees that we knew were, you know, very much wanting to know what's happened to our jobs, what's happened to our schools. And it was real important, we thought, to make a decision and to send a signal about what was going on in St. Tammany. And we did put out word as best we could that we wouldn't reopen before October 1st.
And I think it must have been from our lack of sleep or something that we came up with a date that was so tough.
And we chose that date because it was a month away, and clearly we couldn't do what had to be done in any less time.
When we made that decision with Kevin Davis, how the word spread so fast. You know, it was like excitement. It was like something people needed to hear.
And then we got word that that the state superintendent, Cecil Picard, wanted all of the affected districts to send representatives to a meeting on Friday. And by the way, we had to get the fire station down the street to give us 10 gallons of gas to make it to Baton Rouge because couldn't get gas anywhere. As we walked in, the meeting had already started and the districts were giving their assessments of when they would reopen, and we were hearing St. Bernard saying they didn't think they'd reopen this year, and Plaquemine also said they didn't plan to reopen this year, and Jefferson was saying that they would reopen some schools January. Orleans was saying some schools in January, and we walked in and we said, well, we're going to reopen October 1st.
And, you know, that turned into a little rallying cry right there at the State Department from some of the other parishes as well.
I like to think that St. Tammany sort of set the tone that if you have a can-do attitude, you know, and you move to rally your people, that you can make things go faster. We went home and started working with Louis Bouillon and our IT people to try to get our website going. We thought that was going to be our most reliable means of communication to the people who weren't in St. Tammany.
That gave them something to hold on to so that they knew at least the school system was working and they would have something to come back to.
And by midnight that night, we had heard from 1,200 of our employees.
That shows an importance not only from employees, how important their job is and what they feel like their role in the community is, but how important parents in the community feel about the school itself.
Because people want to be connected. You know, they wanted to be back in the community. They didn't want to be disconnected out there where they had evacuated.
Remember all the encouraging messages they were sending back to us too, you know, from them. They were logging in, tell us where they were, and man, I want to come back.
I was thrilled when I heard that A, we had power, telephones, and Lewis had our website up. That meant that we could start coming home.
Superintendent Sloan established very quickly some staff meetings.
We started that meeting off talking about sort of finding out where everyone fared with the storm, and that was an eye-opener.
You know, some people had lost everything. So we had folks who were trying to take care of them. You know, let's find you a place to live. Let's get you some clothes.
Many of these folks not only lost their homes, but they did lose their schools. And so they lost the two things that were closest to their heart, you know, beyond their children.
So we had to take care of them first. You know, the story about taking the oxygen so you can help the other person is absolutely true.
Just the feedback and the contact with, you know, what employees have you talked to, who haven't you heard from?
And it just showed us, again, geez, what we got here for October, you know, and what are we going to do to get to work here. You know, having a plan and wanting to do it is one thing, but actually making it happen was another. And that was an eye-opener to us.
So I remember driving the neighborhoods, Delwood, Westchester, Lincoln Park, Bay Liberty, and I was just looking for people who was trying, you know, gut their homes and, you know, maybe, you know, and give them the message that, you know, if y'all kids are coming back, we're opening school on October 3rd.
That was an important thing for families to see the principals of their schools and employees of the schools to see their principals on the street saying, we're well and we're going to start school again.
Superintendent, you know, all of you have done a great job. I know every day we discovered a new problem.
We knew that to open our parish up, that the schools were going to be a key component to that.
Kevin Davis started having these daily, what we call mayor's meetings. The mayors came, the school board came, CLECO, the phone company, the Red Cross, FEMA.
The way for us to pass information based on what our requirements were, the easiest way to do it was at these meetings.
Decisions were made in that room. And one of the first things that we had some major concerns with was the debris on our campus. We didn't have the people, we didn't have the equipment or anything like that.
We coordinated the military to the schools. I think I had about 600 under our command. At some point it may have risen to about 3,000.
During that time it was like 95 degrees outside, and they would go and cut fallen trees and remove debris and work 12 hours a day. And then when they returned, you know, if you asked them, how was your day? Outstanding, ma'am.
After the storm, once the decision was made for us to start school back, the decision was made to start, you know, athletics.
The kids in the community have been through so much of a traumatic experience.
The victory was just, with us, was getting back on the field again, and now we can kind of just move forward and put this behind us. And
I remembered saying, all we have to do is kick off. When we kick off, we done won. From that point on, it was, we're back. You know, the cheerleaders and the dance team were the same way.
It was amazing that these kids had it within themselves to get back together and already perform. None of these kids have homes anymore. And they're back because they love the school and they want to be together.
Our schools did an awesome job welcoming the students. Our own students who had been displaced, who were homeless, and kids who were coming from other parishes who were homeless.
And when those kids came, to be able to offer them, if you want a dance team or you want a cheerleading squad, that you were going to be on that squad. To me, that was a donation we made to them, to put them in touch with a club or an organization that they had already been in touch with.
We were actually beginning to believe that we could make that October 1st date. Debris was being cleared away, schools were being repaired. When we were getting our shelters cleared out in preparation for getting those schools, and then something else happened.
Hurricane Rita.
That's right.
But I remember that mayor's meeting that day. People were really frazzled. And then, you know, Kevin says, I really need y'all to open some shelters again. You know, I tell the story. I know when some of those principals see my name on their call ID, they don't want to answer the phone because I'm going to ask them to open a shelter again. But they understood.
We actually had to open shelters back up just in case that it got worse, because you never know.
That was down to the wire. I remember that weekend you and I spent Saturday and Sunday going from school to school, really worried that we weren't going to be ready.
I mean, we had parents that spent the weekend working at their child's school where their house was totally destroyed. I mean, they were raking the yard of Abney Elementary School, where their own yard had a refrigerator and their chest of drawers and every piece of clothing that they owned in their front yard. And that was just like an unbelievable feeling.
That weekend was a real turning point for our school system, because we made the first goal we set for ourselves. I told the story to the board about, you know, realizing after Sunday afternoon, after we knew we were going to make it, that that had been the easy part, that the hard part was ahead of us.
We were starting school again, and we were starting school in a different situation with a whole different set of rules.
So we opened up on October 3rd, and for the first time since I've been in St. Tammany Parish, we had to platoon.
I remember that Salmon High School was our school that was the most damaged, and we were able to work with them and work with their faculty and staff and to put them on the campus of North Shore High School. And I can tell you, it was just unreal, the relationship that those two schools developed, and it started right there from the top with Mike Peterson and Byron Williams.
The students put up signs for us, welcoming us.
Our students, they just took the lead, and I mean, they came up with signs that said Spanthers.
I mean, went above and beyond what we ever expected for it to be.
None of us thought about donations. None of us were thinking about that. We were thinking about, how do we get our school started? How do we get back up and running? And all of a sudden, we got the first call. We were just all amazed and touched by the number of people and organizations that called wanting to help.
Unbelievable, the amount of people from all over the country that are willing to help.
Lights are on again.
It has just been awesome the way that people have reached out to us.
And you remember then.
You know, people want to do something, and so they've given time, money, materials, you know, thoughts and prayers.
Neighbors, friends, and family join. Together we survive. This is our love. This is our life. This is our home, Louisiana. This is our day. Come what may. This is our home. Breaking dawn, a tender morn.
The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in conflict and challenge.
Just a laughs.
I think it makes you a stronger person. It makes you open to look outside the box and what you can do.
And all our hopes flow back to you. The music plays.
We have been forever changed. You know, we will all reach out and help our fellow man.
Majesty, together we survive. This is our love.
We're here, we're well, we've been hurt, but we're going to recover. We're going to be back on our feet.
This is our day.
And you can count on it.
Come what may, this is our home. This is our love. This is our life. This is our home, Louisiana.
never going to be like it was.
This is our day.
It's going to be different.
Come what may.
Things are going to be better.
This is our home.
This is home, and this is where I need to be.